Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Scripting Fridays, which is the Friday edition of the Agent Power Huddle. Agent Power Huddle, if you're not familiar, every day of the week, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Some expert is going to educate you on the various topics. I am a scripting guy. I believe and I desire to feel like I can just pull a string like one of those talking dolls anytime any lead prospect or broker even says, what's the answer to this? Or what do you think of that? I want to be able to pull a string and know exactly what to say. And that's been my goal. Now I'm in my 39th year, so I'm getting pretty good at it. That being said, today we're going to switch things up just a bit. And I'm going to share an opportunity for you or with you for an additional revenue stream in your business. How many of you have ever wondered how much the loan officer makes on a deal? I can tell you my background is I started as a loan officer in 1987, and I got tired of seeing brokers make more money than I made, and not being as smart as I am, in my humble opinion. So I was like, I'm getting a real estate license. So I actually started a company in 2004 that was dually licensed. And we provided both services. Everybody that worked there had both a real estate license and a mortgage license. That was a unique model, and it was a wildly successful model. That's why I wanted to bring this to your attention, because we went from zero as a startup to 3 million in revenue in just 24 months. And here's the reason why. The consumer preferred to just tell their story to one person. They didn't want to have to dump everything on an agent and then go meet a loan officer and dump everything on them. They liked having just to tell their story once, and it was wildly successful. One thing that we accomplished during that period of time is I was the first mortgage brokerage to get approved by HUD for FHA loans. The reason that's so unique and why I was first is because it was banned. You weren't allowed to do both. But because I demonstrated to HUD that we would have separate offices, separate file cabinets, separate, never would you see the same person's name on the purchase and sale that you saw on the 1003 or loan application. And they were like, okay with that. And they approved me, which was a huge win. Fast forward to 2022, HUD and VA changed that rule. And they now loosened it and said it's okay for somebody to do both. Enter Remlo. That's what we're going to talk about today. REMLO stands for Real Estate Mortgage Loan Originator. It's sort of a dual path opportunity for people. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds like a lot of work, Ed. I know I had to do 180 hours to get my license in Texas for real estate. How many hours do I have to do for this? Blah, blah, blah. None of that, because our partner in this is a national federally chartered bank. So as long as you go through their process to be onboarded, they will vouch for you and support you, which means, and I'm going to dig into what all this means in great detail, but I just want you to understand the concept. That means you can become a licensed loan officer for free with no continuing education, and they'll pay for your fingerprinting, they'll pay for everything. I just went through this process and I am now a licensed lender. And uh sorry, there's people coming in. Um, I know my being a licensed lender isn't that unique because I was one for 32 years. But I'm sharing that because I want all you guys to know, if you decide to pursue this, you'll have me to support you. You'll have someone with the bank who is assigned to you, but you'll also have a 30-year veteran who's closed. Like a lot of you know, I've closed 3,000 houses. I've closed 5,000 mortgages. I've actually done more transactions on the mortgage side than on the real estate side. So I'm a good resource. All right. So let's dive in. I want you to come off mute if you have any questions along the way. And I'm going to hit play on my slide deck. I should just turn off my second screen, should I? That would make this all happen faster. But Autumn will edit that out. All right. So you guys already know about my experience, if it'll advance. Okay. Wow. That's annoying. All right. So I already covered that. My screen sharing is paused. What the heck? Can you guys see my screen?
We're caught up now. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Molly. This is I run a training every day for my team, and I always complain about my crappy computer. I think it's time to get a new one. But I want you to envision your life on a yacht. Yes, that's the imagery. But here's why. So, a licensed real estate broker, due to this change, can now originate mortgage loans while practicing real estate. And because you're part of Texana Bank is the partner, you're guided by their federal charter, right? That's why it's such a great deal. Now, why Texana? They're not the only ones that are doing this, but they have built a model around it. So they have a polished sort of methodology of doing this, and they have good interest rates and flexible programs. So we're going to touch on what sort of loan products you could do. And don't worry, you don't have to become an expert. You're going to have a partner, a lending partner that's assigned to you. And all you do is talk to your client, explain to them, step one in our methodology is to get pre-approved. That's step one, right? The dialogue that we use is, I don't want to drag you into a neighborhood that maybe you couldn't afford. Like that would be a mistake on my part. So let's get you pre-approved first. And do you guys all know what the federal requirement is for referring your preferred lender? 3. You actually have to give them 3. So could one of them be you? Absolutely, right? And the beauty is when you're done talking to and bonding and building rapport with a buyer, and then at the end you say, let's get you pre-approved. Here's 3 lending institutions that I work with. One of them is me. What do you think they're going to say? Can I just work with you? That's why I started this conversation with the success that we had in my previous company, because the consuming public doesn't want to have to have their whole story told. And again, they just finished telling you. So they're going to like you, trust you, and respect you. And then at the end of that meeting, you're going to say, by the way, now let's get you pre-approved. And if you want, I can do that for you. They don't have to. Is there a percentage that might say, no, I prefer to have, an arm's length relationship with both a lender and a realtor? Sure. The percentage of those, though, is less than 5%. The vast majority of people don't see any issue with that. And legally, there is no issue. There's no conflict of interest because you are not the one making the lending decision, right? And you're going to have a lending partner who's going to facilitate gathering all the pay stubs, W-2s, and all that stuff. All you're going to have is loansbydebbie.com, which is your application link. So when you say, here's 3 options, and they say, can I use you? You're just going to say, yeah, I'll send you my link. That's it. right? 2022 is when HUD redefined it. Then you had the NAR settlement, right? Which actually scared a lot of MLOs out of the industry. 30% of them left the industry because they just thought it was going to be more difficult, too hard, right? And now we're into the future where you can be the facilitator for that, right? Not only can you help the next buyer you meet with, you can help all the buyers you've already helped. They actually have a software platform that they ran my list of past clients through, and based on when they closed and the product type that they closed with, they produced a list of potential refis. I just reached out to my client base and said, hey, based on where rates are today, you could save a few $100 a month. Do you want to explore that? No cost or obligation. How many of your clients are going to say yes to that? All of them. Like, who doesn't want to find out how much they could save? So who's eligible for this? You, right? What type of loans? They actually have all the products you need, including construction. So owner-occ purchases, refinances, bank portfolio products, conventional HELOCs. I love that it says refis where allowed, because in Texas, cash out refis were not allowed for decades. They are now, but under certain limitations. That's in part why, Debbie, I know you're in Texas. Have you noticed the property values are more affordable?
In some areas, yeah, but I was also in Central California where they were also more affordable for the state.
Well, in Texas, it was because of a law that prevented cash out refis. That put downward pressure. I actually, when I went back into my mortgage career, I had an office in Houston. I would travel to Houston once a month to support and coach loan officers. And our average transaction size was so much smaller there. So what's the advantage for you as an agent? Well, first, if you do this, you're immediately licensed in all 50 states. So when you're at your Christmas dinner with relatives from all over the country and they say, wait, rates are down under 6 now? You could say, yeah, would you like to see if a refi would save you money? I can help you do that. Doesn't matter where they live. That's kind of cool. Plus, Texana has been around for over a century. So you have that sort of respect in the industry. If you do this, you have full support from Texana. They provide all the training, all the marketing, they make sure of compliance. None of us want to get out of compliance. So you have somebody reviewing all your documents, just like you probably do at your firm. I know at EXP, we have a QC department. That's their job. You'll have the same role with the bank. Here's where it gets lucrative. You actually can receive 50 basis points on if you're under a million, 60 basis points if you're over a million. So that's a 0.5% or a 0.5 point if you're talking in mortgage vernacular. So what does that mean? Well, I'm in Seattle. Our median is about $1 million. $1 million loan would be $5,000 to me. If you're in Texas and it's a $600,000 loan or 400, it's 3 grand or 2 grand. It's just another revenue stream. If you do a couple of them a month, you probably are going to get over this million threshold and get 60 basis points anyway, right? The agents in my market and on my team, they're all like 60 basis points is sort of a lock because of our prices are being so high. You're going to have that dedicated loan partner I mentioned. I had a Zoom meeting with mine yesterday just to meet him. He was awesome. He's been in the industry for 15 years. He knows what he's doing. He's proactive, helpful, supportive. And my job is just to connect my buyers to him. And then he'll take it from there. Right? You also can do refis, which I've touched on, But you also can do recruiting of Remlos. So I'm going to share a link today, but on that link, when you apply, it's going to say who referred you. If you put Ed Laine, I'll get an extra 5%. You could talk to agents in your firm or agents in your market and give them the link and have them put your name, right? Makes it pretty easy. So you're going to have an apply now link that you're going to send to the consumer, right? Loans with Debbie or whatever. You're going to educate them. You don't have to be an expert, but I've been preaching being knowledgeable about mortgages to my team forever, even when they weren't loan officers. You need to have a fundamental or foundational knowledge of loans so that you can communicate with your clients, right? And the best part is when you have that, you can also listen for red flags, right? When you're driving around looking at houses and they say, we're going to buy a new Mercedes, ding, 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 that's going to blow their debt to income ratio, right? You wouldn't necessarily think that if you didn't have some level of knowledge about lending, right? Then you're going to introduce your loan partner to them and you're going to stay in touch with both of them, right? That's what we do already. We're just going to check in. Now you're checking in with your loan partner. Is the appraisal back? When are docs going to get to escrow? They're all the same questions you do already, right? Hopefully. Schedule and attend closing. That's not a requirement. They recommend it. I pushed back on that because I don't have time to attend every closing. I sell a lot of houses. But it is wise to go if you're able to. And they said, not a requirement, but if you can go, you should. And I know I'm being selfish when I say I don't go, because if I were to go, I have a very calming demeanor. And signings can be a little bit stressful, right? It's a big stack of papers. So let me share a script with you right now for your buyer before they go to sign. If you're not going, if you are going, you'll say this when you get there. But if you're not going, say, hey, I understand you're signing tomorrow at 2. I just want to kind of give you a little heads up on what to pay attention to. It's a kind of a thick stack of papers. For getting a mortgage, it's about an inch thick. There's only a couple things that you really need to slow down on and pay attention to. And I should also tell you that they're going to give you a complete set of copies so you can take it home and go through it more carefully and slowly. But as you're signing, the things you want to pay attention to are the settlement statement, because that's going to say how much money you need to bring, and the promissory note, because that's going to say what your interest rate is. And both of those should match what you've already been told. That's the only thing you really got to go slow enough. Like the deed of trust. It's 12 pages long. It's boring as hell. And all it says is your house, if you don't make the payments, is collateral for the mortgage. So you can go through the signing a little bit faster when you realize all you really need to pay attention to is the settlement statement and the note. Does that make sense? And they go, yeah, great. Now, if I go with them, I'll slow them down when we get those things. When the closer slides the settlement statement across, which typically is the first document, I'll say, this is the settlement statement we were talking about. Let's make sure the bottom line cash from the buyer is the number you're expecting. Which, by the way, Dodd-Frank laws, which came out of the Great Recession, require that it match. That's why the closing disclosure that went out 3 days earlier has to match. So there are no surprises. That was one of the regulation changes from almost 10 years ago now. All right. So how do I qualify to be a Remlo if you want to pursue this? Number one, just be open-minded. You're going to learn about loan products that you don't know a lot about today, but it's going to help you. like a HELOC or a construction loan. Uh, what's the difference between a 5/1 arm and a 5-year fixed or a 30-year fix, right? They have an onboarding process and training. It's one Zoom meeting led by their lead trainer. I'm having mine next week. I'll let you know how it goes. It's probably not that complicated. And they're definitely like, I'm in a unique position because of my experience, but I'll guarantee you that they've dumbed it down so that anyone and everyone could understand what they're teaching, right? You're going to have probably weekly conversations with your loan partner, especially if you've got loans in the pipe, right? Minimum production requirements. So this is where they're asking, how much business do you do? They want to know if they're going to pay for everything, which they do, that you do enough business that it's going to be a profitable partnership, right? So 1.8 million or 6 buyer transactions per year or in the last 12 months, or if you do more listings, 3.6 million or 12 transactions if you do both buyers and sellers like I do. That's not a lot, right? But if you're just starting out, you might not meet that. They can make exceptions. So if you're somebody that's on my team that's watching this video, they'll make an exception for you because you'll be mentored by me. And they really respect me and my experience. In fact, when I talk to my loan partner, he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years, but I heard you've been doing it for like 20 or 25. You're doing way long. I said, actually 32. He's like, holy shit, right? I started when I was 2. I'm only 34 now. No, I'm kidding. So here's the link. Just go into your browser, go to remloprogram.com, and then you'll go through the process and recognize it's a federally chartered bank. So there is a background check. If you got a felony in your past, you're not likely to get approved. Um, but I've dealt with lots of national banks. Most of the time they'll say, tell us the story. What happened? So let me look in the chat. I see there's a couple of chats here. Uh, Bjorkman, I love it. I use the sun for photos. Oh, we'll have to talk about that when we finish here, Allison. Um, I think that's the end. Let me make sure. So this is what the site looks like. You just want to go to join our team, join Remlo, sorry. Um, and make sure you mention me when you fill it out. So I'll stop the share. Don't forget to make a note of this URL. We'll talk about it once I stop the share. WhatwouldEdsay.com. I want to open it up to questions. Is anybody thinking about this? Is this of interest? Or
I
did I
have
just,
I've been told that I should, and partly because of my bookkeeping background, so the financial side should be a good fit as well because of the number
oh,
of
yeah.
my my bookkeeping background. But I've always been curious how, when you're both the loan officer and the agent, how do you how do you work like inspections and repairs? Because we don't share inspections with our loan officers.
Right.
So how
So
do you differentiate I mean, is it like being a dual agent?
it's your practice isn't going to change. Like your practice right now is to separate the results from the inspection response itself, right?
Yeah.
And if you called your loan officer and said, "Hey, they have a roof that's failing, but we're going to try and get a 5-year cert," he's going to say, "Great, please do that. Don't don't put it in the contract." So just like your loan officer can be a buffer from underwriting, that's who we don't want the information to flow to. You'll be the buffer. So if that creates a ethical dilemma for you, then don't be the loan officer on that deal where um, you can tell the house is dilapidated or whatever, right? I don't have an issue with that at all because the underwriter, I used to be an underwriter. There was a period in my career where I was the underwriter, then I became the underwriting manager, then I wrote the guidelines. I wrote a 500-page underwriting guideline book, and I
Of
got a
course you did.
and I got a bonus from the owner of the company of $500 for it. I was too stupid to realize what a ripoff that was. But I did it because we needed it and needed to sell loans to more secondary market investors. I mean, it was part of my growth and education, so I didn't regret it. But I was like, really, $500? That's $1 a page, you tool. Anyway, um, so my point is, I don't have an issue with what you're describing being that buffer. If you do, just bow out or tell your lending partner, hey, I'm gonna give you 100% of the communication. I'm still here. I'll still chime in if you need me to, but because there's some issues with the property, I don't want to have a conversation with you that could be a problem. I mean, that's an option. They want you to share the load, right, in the communication. That's why you're going to have these conversations every week or so if you have deals in the hopper. Um, but you can allay that issue, I think, pretty easily. Anybody else have a question? Rick, I know you've seen this now twice, right? Because you were there Friday. I have a monthly sales training, and we had Texana come into it on our sales meeting on Friday. Are you thinking about doing it?
It's a no-brainer to me, but I've reached out to two lenders and they instantly have massive pushback. And the first thing they say is RESPA.
Yeah.
And they also tell me that you're not ever going to get a good mortgage lender. And I'm not pushing back on you, Ed. You asked for my feedback, so I'm just telling you um, that no good mortgage loan officer is going to work with a program like this because he says, what if the tables were turned? How would you feel about me taking half of your commission just because I referred someone to you? And I know you said you do that all the time with referrals. I think we talked about that yesterday or the other day, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I just know that two very, very experienced mortgage officers I've spoken to recently instantly had massive pushback. So I think they've been dealing with this and are not liking
Why
it.
why do you think they pushed back, Rick?
Money, for one,
You're going to erode their income.
correct?
This program is going to erode their income. So it's not a RESPA violation. They're wrong on that. It can't be, or else a federal bank would lose their charter. You are a W-2 employee of Texana Bank. That's why it's not a RESPA violation. It's not a referral. You're providing a service and you're getting compensated for that service. So you're welcome to have those guys call me if you want, because I'll recruit them over to the program. Like they're either going to change or die. That's what's going to happen. And it's not immediate. This rule change happened in 2022. That's 4 years ago now, right? It took time. But I'm I'm pursuing refis with a bunch of past clients right now. And if they close, I'll do over 1 million just in the next 30 days because of the program. That plugs 5 grand into my bank account. Is that a bad thing? No. So I always think of these things as another arrow in my quiver, right? Or another tool in my toolbox. If I can provide heightened service to somebody, that's a benefit. Now, might somebody say, I think it's a conflict of interest. I think it's a violation of RESPA. They're not likely to even know what RESPA is, but yeah, and I don't care. They're not going to think less of me. They're just going to say, I'm going to I'm going to use my brother-in-law instead. Like that's a real scenario. what Rick just said, the feedback he got from a loan officer could be my buyer whose brother-in-law is a loan officer, and she asked him about it, and he gave that feedback. So is she going to use me? No. Do I care? No. But did I offer it? You bet. There's no obligation on their part, right? It's just another arrow in my quiver. All right, let's talk very quickly about whatwouldEdSay.com. Buster, I think you're a new face on this call. That is a custom GPT of all the scripting that I teach. So if you're ever in between this meeting every Friday and you have a question, just go there and ask it. And it works as long as you have a Chat GPT account, even a free one. But if you don't have one, it won't open because it's in OpenAI's platform. Any questions or scripting needs that anybody has right now that I can help with? All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me on this beautiful Friday the 13th. And I hope you guys have a great day and a productive weekend.
Thank you, Ed.
And tell Bjorkman I said hi, Allison.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.